Good morning, old school Texas Tech. I continue with some postseason predictions from an undisclosed location south of the equator. Anyway, I am going to predict, I'm going to try to do my best with the Holiday Bowl. It's the Syracuse Orange against the Washington State Cougars. I'm pretty familiar with both of these programs. I have a really close friend, one of my closest friends, who went to Syracuse for undergrad and grad school. And then we have two, my family and I have two very close family friends who either went to Washington State or polls for the Cougars. So I know a little bit about these programs. Texas Tech also played Washington State minus Taj Brooks, but it was I believe it was the second game of the year, and they smacked us around pretty good. Now, something is going on with the transfer portal with Washington State. They also lost their head coach to Wake Forest. ESPN Analytics has it like 50-50, but Vegas has jumped to Syracuse being favored by 17 points. So, and then there's an article, I read part of it, Washington State football is imploding or something like that. I don't know if I agree with the article, but it mentioned coaching changes, transfer portals stuff, budget stuff with the university. I don't really understand all that because I thought that they were getting some of the they were getting some of the former Pac-12 money along with Oregon State, but I haven't followed that in great detail. So this one I'm going to go through it as quickly as I can, just because I don't know what's going on there. That Vegas spread is pretty daunting. They must know something about the portal that I don't. But anyway, we'll start with Washington State. Jake Dickert went to. He's the guy that left and went to Wake Forest. Went over to the ACC. Well, they're doing okay, but they've got some TV money contract problems themselves. But they've got a high profile head coach and Belichick. So I guess maybe there's more stability there. Yeah, I guess you could say that. To be fair, but anyway, they've got a guy named Pete. Pete, last name spelled Kaligis, will be their interim bull coach. They've got a second year. They've got a second year offensive coordinator, and from what I saw in Pullman against Tech, he did a good job. They've got the defensive coordinator did a good job in that game against us too. We just didn't play well at all, and we didn't have Taj Brooks. And Washington State played well. You got to give them credit. They run a base defense of 4-2-5. I know from following Coach Leach that they had made major improvements to that stadium in the time that he was coaching there. Anyway, let's look at some of their statistics. I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time because again, I don't know who's playing in this game. Like Mateer, that quarterback, was good. He was good all year. 29 touchdowns, 7 interceptions. He was actually their rushing leader as well. That's interesting. Let me look at that stat. I thought they had a back that they utilized pretty well against us. Let's see. Let's see. Yeah, Parker's their lead running back, 137 carries, 735 yards, 5.5 yards a carry. He had 4 touchdowns. But the quarterback, 178 carries, 826 yards. He averaged 4.6 a carry. He throws it to a bunch of wide receivers. They still they're still air raid from the Mike Leach days. He throws it to like five wide receivers, tight ends got I'm sorry, yeah, five wide receivers and a tight end all have double digit receptions. Also, their running back Parker's got 11. So they spread the ball out a lot. All right, so we'll run through their schedule briefly. They beat Portland State. They beat Tech badly. That was without Taj Brooks, but still very impressive game. They beat Washington, their big rival. Had kind of a down year. San Jose State, which at that time they beat them in overtime. At San Jose State, didn't I didn't think they were going anywhere this year, and they ended up making a bowl game. They got beat up pretty good by Boise State. They beat Fresno State. That was a little bit unexpected at the beginning of the year, if I remember correctly. Beat Hawaii, beat San Diego State, beat Utah State, and then they went on a pretty rough run. They lost at New Mexico, they lost to Oregon State, and they lost to Wyoming, who didn't have a great year. Okay, so that's kind of where they are with schedule. Let's take a look at Syracuse. I watched the bowl game with my friend in Georgia. He came to visit me a couple years ago when I was teaching in Georgia, and I could tell that their head coach. I got the feeling he wasn't going to be there for very long. In that bowl game, I forgot who they played. 2022. Anyway, they have a new first year coach, Fran Brown. He does the all the co-offensive coordinators, co-defensive coordinators. They run a 4-2-5. They won 9 games this year, 5-3 in the ACC. So it was a nice season for them. They beat Ohio. They beat Georgia Tech at home. The Ohio win was at home too. They lost to Stanford at home. Beat Holy Cross at home. Then they go on the road to UNLV. UNLV had a good year. They beat them in overtime. They beat NC State. I think it started to kind of fall off at that point. NC State was ranked earlier in the year. They lost to Pittsburgh pretty bad. Then they beat Virginia Tech. Um, they lost at Boston College. Beat Cal cross country. They flew out to Cal and beat them in Northern California. Beat UConn, and then they beat Miami, number six ranked team in the country at the time. So and then let's look at some of Syracuse's statistics. I think more of it looks to me like more of their players are playing for sure from what I can tell from looking at the line. Um, let's see, Syracuse. Their quarterback threw for 4,300 yards. 4,300 yards, 29 touchdowns, 12 interceptions. I believe that's the highest. I don't know if he's the leading passer in college football or not. That's insane. Um, they didn't run the ball quite as well, although their lead ball carrier 211 carries, 900 yards basically, 4.3 yards pop, 14 touchdowns. So yeah, I mean he was a pretty productive player, especially if they're throwing the ball that much. They threw the ball to and they threw it to they threw it to four wide receivers, a tight end, and a running back. But they all had like seven touchdowns, touchdowns, three touchdowns, two touchdowns, three touchdowns, two touchdowns. So I mean, they really had a lot of people scoring in the passing game. So the Syracuse offense is pretty stout. All right, so the thing with this game again is just there's something going on. Vegas doesn't have a 17-point spread if there's not something major going on with the portal. Um, what the statistics that really determine games for me usually is running the ball. How good can you get? How good is your defense at getting the other team off the field on third down? And those numbers look pretty they're pretty equal. But I think with this game, there's obviously instability with the coaching staff. Something's going on with the portal. So I think with this one, what I'm going to do is just I think Syracuse is going to win the game. I think Syracuse probably would have won the game even if Washington State was at full strength, but it's obvious that Washington State's not going to be at full strength. So I think Syracuse wins the game by a couple of touchdowns. I would say, let's say, I'm gonna. It seems like I go with that score a lot. Let's go with like 30, 37-23 Syracuse is what I'm going to go in this game. And this one's just a really hard one to predict. And I have a lot of respect for the season that Washington State had. I just think they're falling. They've really Washington State and Oregon State. I need to someday I need to do a full video on that. They just the what's happened to them is just not fair not fair for either of their fan bases. It's really not fair for college football, in my opinion, either. But yeah, but anyway, that's for another day. I like Syracuse winning 37-23. Um, my buddy will be happy. My two family friends are, I'm sure, not happy about what's going on at Washington State, but it is what it is right now, and we'll see how everything settles with realignment and all of that. I know out west, especially after the four corner schools moved to the Big 12, everything just got even more. It's just gotten even crazier. So anyway, that's where I am with this one. 37-23, very uncertain game. Direct TV Holiday Bowl. It'll be played late on the West Coast on the 27th. Anyway, everybody have a good day. I'm going to go get some breakfast at my undisclosed location. Take care. Hope you had a great Christmas, happy holidays, all that.